He had been lied to 3 times. The first woman had smiled at his money and called it love. The second had been more subtle, had taken longer to reveal the specific thing she was actually interested in, which was not him, but the life that came with him. The third had been the most honest, had simply said, at the end, that she had tried and that she was sorry, but that she found the reality of him less interesting than the idea. He was 43 years old, worth $8 billion, the subject of considerable interest from considerable numbers of women, none of whom he had come to understand were interested in him. So on a Monday morning, Thomas Whitfield made a decision. He would find out what he was worth without the $8 billion. He moved into a small flat in an ordinary neighborhood. He took a job through a company he secretly owned as a handyman, worn clothes, a second-hand van. The particular invisibility of someone the world had decided was unremarkable. He had been invisible for 3 weeks when he met her. She was fixing a bicycle outside the building across the street, alone, in the rain, with the focused determination of someone who had decided that the rain was not relevant to the bicycle. He crossed the street. "Asterisk, do you need help?" Asterisk, he said. She looked up. She assessed him with the specific directness of someone who had learned that help sometimes came with complications. "Asterisk, do you know how to fix bicycles?" Asterisk, she said. Asterisk, oh no. Asterisk, he said. Asterisk, but I'm willing to learn. Asterisk, she looked at him for a long moment. Then she handed him the wrench. Asterisk, everyone starts somewhere. Asterisk, she said. He did not know yet that this woman, who fixed bicycles in the rain and gave wrenches to strangers, who admitted they didn't know what they were doing, was going to be the answer to a question he had spent 3 marriages asking. His name was Thomas Whitfield. He was 43 years old and had been, for 20 of those years, building Whitfield Industries, building it with the specific focused intensity of someone who understood that building required everything and had given it everything and had arrived at $8 billion and the particular position of someone who had built something significant and was now surrounded by people who were interested in the significance rather than the person who had produced it. He had been married 3 times. He examined this with the honesty he tried to bring to uncomfortable facts. 3 times. Not because he was reckless. He was not reckless. Had applied to each marriage the same careful consideration he applied to major acquisitions. Not because he was unlucky. He did not believe in luck as an explanation for patterns. Because he had a specific blindness that he had identified only after the 3rd divorce. He could not, from inside the context of being Thomas Whitfield worth $8 billion, see people clearly. The money was a lens. It distorted everything it touched. The women he met saw the lens first. Some of them, he tried to be fair, had genuinely believed they could see past it. Some had tried. But the lens was always there, between him and everything, and nobody had managed to see him rather than through it. He needed to remove the lens. He moved into the flat on a Monday. The flat was on Carver Street. Small, 2 rooms, a kitchen that was also the sitting room, a bathroom with a shower that worked on alternate days. With the specific unpredictability of old plumbing, he had rented it through an intermediary, paying 3 months in advance, which the landlord had received with the surprised gratitude of someone not accustomed to advance payment. He had furnished it from a charity shop. This had been. He sat in the charity shop chair on the first evening, and examined this, surprisingly comfortable. Not the chair, which was not comfortable. The situation. The specific simplicity of a life that contained only what was necessary. He had taken the handyman job on Tuesday. It was real work, or real enough. He had arranged, through layers of corporate structure that kept his name invisible, for a small property management company to hire a new handyman and to assign him to the buildings on Carver Street and the surrounding area. The work was genuine, fixing things that were broken, maintaining things that were deteriorating, being present when presence was needed. He had done none of this before. He discovered, not immediately competent at it. He had been learning for 3 weeks when it rained on a Thursday afternoon, and he saw her across the street. Her name was Rosa Mendes. She was 31 years old and had been, for most of those years, the specific kind of person that the world produces when it applies consistent pressure, and the person pushes back with consistent stubbornness, the kind who was not defeated by things going wrong and who did not perform resilience, but simply had it. The way some people simply have certain qualities, without having sought them. She had grown up poor. Not dramatically poor, not the poverty of crisis, but the poverty of consistent limitation. The specific childhood of someone who understood from an early age that things required managing, and that managing required attention, and that attention was something she had. She worked 3 jobs. The archive, part-time, 20 hours a week, cataloging documents for the county record office. The cafe on the corner, for shifts, the early morning ones that nobody else wanted. And the bicycle repair, not officially a job, but the specific arrangement that had grown organically from her ability to fix things, and her neighbor's inability to afford proper mechanics. She charged what people could afford, which was sometimes very little and occasionally nothing. She was fixing Mrs. Patterson's bicycle in the rain because Mrs. Patterson was 83 and needed it for her shopping, and the rain was not relevant to Mrs. Patterson's need. She was not thinking about the man who crossed the street. She was thinking about the gear mechanism, which was older than she was and had opinions about being adjusted. "Do you need help?" She looked up. A man, perhaps 40, worn clothes, the particular appearance of someone who worked with his hands and was not pretending to. She assessed him. He had good hands. She noticed hands, had learned that hands told you things. His were not the hands of someone who had been doing this for long, but they were the hands of someone who was paying attention. "Do you know how to fix bicycles?" "No," he said, "but I'm willing to learn." She looked at him for a moment. Everyone starts somewhere. She handed him the wrench. He learned about bicycles. Not immediately. Immediately, he was considerably more hindrance than help, which Rosa managed with the specific patience of someone who had decided that his willingness to admit ignorance was more valuable than false competence would have been. "Hold this," she said. He held it. "Not like that," she said. He adjusted. "Better," she said. This was, he would think later, the first time in several years that someone had told him not like that, and meant it about something that had nothing to do with him being Thomas Whitfield. She was not managing him. She was fixing a bicycle, and he was helping, and the help needed to be correct. He found this. He examined the finding with the same honesty. He applied to other uncomfortable facts. He found this remarkable. They fixed the bicycle. He had contributed approximately 15% of the fixing. Rosa had been scrupulously honest about this in her assessment. You held things well. High praise, he said. It is, actually, she said. Most people hold things wrong. Mrs. Patterson came out and collected the bicycle and thanked Rosa with the warmth of someone who had been thanked by Rosa before and knew the quality of the thanking. How much, Mrs. Patterson said. Nothing this time, Rosa said. The part was cheap, Mrs. Patterson looked at her with the expression of someone who knew this was not entirely true and was going to accept it anyway, because accepting it was what Rosa needed. Thomas watched this exchange. He thought she charged nothing for the work in the rain. For an 83-year-old, he thought, this is the first genuinely good person I have met in a very long time. He found reasons to be on Carver Street. Not dramatically, his work gave him legitimate reasons. The buildings on Carver Street being part of his assigned area. But he made sure those buildings received particular attention. He was there on the mornings she went to the cafe. He was there on the evenings she came home from the archive. He helped with things when help was needed. Not just for her, for the street. Mrs. Patterson's bicycle had produced a particular reputation. The new handyman who actually showed up and didn't overcharge. He found himself fixing things for people who hadn't asked, which he hadn't expected to find satisfying, and did. Rosa remained careful, not unfriendly, careful. The specific carefulness of someone who had learned that people who appeared helpful sometimes had reasons for the appearing. You're always here, she said to him one morning. I work here, he said. You work on the whole street, she said. But you're always on this particular block. He looked at her. The buildings on this block, he said, need more attention than the others. That's not entirely true, she said. No, he said. It isn't. She looked at him. She did not pursue it, but she did not walk away. She made soup on Sundays. This was something he knew because Mrs. Patterson had told him. Mrs. Patterson, who had become, over weeks of bicycle maintenance and small repairs, something like a neighborhood correspondent, providing Thomas with information about Carver Street that he had not requested and found useful. Rosa makes soup every Sunday, Mrs. Patterson said. She makes too much and brings the extra to whoever needs it. Why does she make too much? Mrs. Patterson looked at him. Because she knows people who need soup, she said, and she finds it easier to make too much than to decide in advance how much too much to make. On the following Sunday, he was sitting outside his flat at noon when Rosa came down the street with a pot. She saw him. She assessed him. Have you eaten? She said. Not yet, he said. She looked at the pot. Come then, she said. He ate soup at her kitchen table, the small kitchen of the flat above the cafe, the specific warmth of somewhere made comfortable with limited resources and considerable intention. The soup was, he had eaten in the best restaurants in 4 countries, and the soup was the best thing he had eaten in years. He said so. She looked at him. It's just soup, she said. It's not just soup, he said. It's onion and whatever vegetables were reduced on Saturday, she said. There's no technique. There's technique, he said. You just don't notice it because it's yours. She looked at him with the expression she had worn in the rain, the specific assessment of someone deciding something. Thomas, she said. Single quotes, yes. Why are you here? She said. On Carver Street. You're not. She paused. You're not what you look like. What do I look like? Someone who grew up doing this work, she said. But your hands are wrong. They're getting better. You're working hard and it shows. But they started wrong. He looked at his hands. You noticed, he said. I notice hands, she said. I always have. He was quiet for a moment. I'm trying to find something, he said, that I can't find in my real life. What? Someone who sees me, he said, rather than what comes with me. She looked at him. That's honest, she said. I'm trying to be, he said. What comes with you? She said. He looked at his soup. More than you'd expect, he said. She looked at him for a long moment. I'm not interested in what comes with people, she said. I never have been. I know, he said. That's why I'm here. It grew in the specific way of things that grow when nobody is forcing them. Not quickly. Rosa was careful, had been careful her whole life in this specific way of someone who understood that caution was not the same as fear. She let things develop at the pace they developed and did not push. He came for soup on Sundays. He helped with the bicycle repairs. He was better at them now. Had been practicing, which Rosa had noticed and acknowledged with the specific brevity of someone who did not perform. Praise but gave it when it was accurate. They talked about her work at the archive. She talked about it the way he had talked about Whitfield Industries in the early years, before it became management rather than making, with the specific passion of someone who cared about the thing for its own sake. About his. He was careful here. Talked about the handyman work, which was real enough in the context of Carver Street, and did not talk about the other thing, about everything else. She had opinions, specific, considered. The opinions of someone who read widely and thought carefully, and was not interested in being agreed with, was interested in the conversation. He disagreed with her sometimes. She received disagreement with the specific interest of someone who found it more useful than agreement. You're not like the men I've known, she said one Sunday. What are they like? Easier, she said, or harder? Not both at the same time. Is that good? I think so, she said. I'm still deciding. He looked at her, at the woman who fixed bicycles in the rain and made too much soup and noticed hands and gave wrenches to strangers who admitted their ignorance. He thought, I should tell her. He thought, not yet. He thought, soon. He told her on a Sunday in March. Not because he had planned March, because he had been carrying it for 2 months, and the carrying had become, in the specific way of things carried too long, heavier than it was worth. She was washing the soup pot. He was sitting at her kitchen table. Rosa, he said, single quotes, yes. I need to tell you something, he said, that I should have told you a long time ago. She turned. She looked at him. She waited. He told her. All of it. Thomas Whitfield. Whitfield Industries, $8 billion. The 3 marriages and the specific blindness the money had produced, and the flat on Carver Street, and the second-hand van, and the 3 weeks before the bicycle in the rain. She listened. She did not interrupt. When he finished, she was very still. He waited. How long? She said. 6 months, he said. She looked at the pot in her hands. 6 months, she said. Yes, you came here, she said, to find someone who would love you without knowing what you were worth. Yes, he said. And you chose not to tell me, she said, for 6 months. Yes, he said. She put the pot down. She looked at him, and the expression was not the assessment expression, not the careful expression, not any expression he had seen before. It was the specific expression of someone who has been trusted with something and is deciding whether the trust was earned or taken. "Get out," she said. "Rosa, you lied to me for 6 months," she said. "Not about small things, about who you are. I thought I knew you." She held his gaze. "I didn't know you at all. You knew me," he said. "Everything you knew about me was true. Everything except the thing that changes everything," she said. He looked at her. "Yes," he said. "I'm sorry. Get out," she said again. "Please." He got out. She did not call for 3 weeks. He waited, not passively. He had learned from 6 months on Carver Street that waiting was not passive, but active, the specific activity of someone who is respecting another person's time and process and is not going to interrupt it for their own comfort. He went back to his real life. He sat in the Whitfield Industries office and looked at the desk. That had been his desk for 20 years, and thought about a kitchen on Carver Street, and soup made from reduced vegetables, and a woman who had told him to get out and had been right to. His assistant brought him things. People wanted decisions. He made decisions. He noticed, making them differently than before, with the specific attention of someone who had spent 6 months noticing hands and fixing bicycles and eating soup at small kitchen tables, and who understood, now, the weight of what the decisions meant for the people they affected. On the 18th day, he received a message. Not a call, a message. A photograph of a bicycle gear mechanism, correctly adjusted. With the message, "I fixed it myself. Took 3 attempts." He looked at the photograph for a long time. He replied, "3 attempts is correct. The first 2 are practice," a pause. "Then, I know you were wrong to lie. I also know why." Another pause. "Then, I'm not saying it's all right. I'm saying I understand." He sat with this. Then he replied, "Can I come for soup on Sunday?" A long pause. Then, "Yes." He came on Sunday. She had made soup. He sat at the kitchen table. She sat across from him. "I need to ask you something," she said. "Ask," he said. "The handyman work," she said. "Was any of it real?" "All of it was real," he said. "The buildings needed the work. I did the work. Mrs. Patterson's boiler, and the window on the 3rd floor, and the bicycle with the gear mechanism." He looked at her. "I was bad at it at first." "You were," she said. "You got better." "Because I practiced," he said. "Because it mattered." She looked at her soup. "Thomas," she said. Single quotes, "Yes. If I had known," she said, "from the beginning. If you had told me on the day with the bicycle, you would have been careful," he said. "The way you're careful with people who have things." "Yes," she said. "I know," he said. "That's why I didn't." She looked at him. "That doesn't make it right," she said. "No," he said. "It doesn't." "But," she said, "I understand why." She looked at the soup. "Here's what I know," she said. "I know you held things wrong and learned how to hold them right. I know you fixed Mrs. Patterson's boiler in November when it was freezing and you didn't charge her. I know you made too much noise with the drill on the 2nd floor and apologized to Mr. Kim for 45 minutes. He almost smiled. 47 minutes, he said. "I know," she said. "I counted." She looked at him. "I know who you were for 6 months. I don't know who you are with $8 billion, but I know which one I'd rather have soup with. He looked at her. Rosa, he said. Single quotes, yes. I have been, he said, for 20 years, the most interesting person in every room I entered. Because of what I built. He held her gaze. And then I moved to Carver Street. And you handed me a wrench and told me everyone starts somewhere. And for the first time in 20 years, I was the least interesting person in the room. The least interesting, the least capable, he said. The one still learning. The one who needed to be shown. He paused. I had forgotten what that felt like. What does it feel like? Like being real, he said. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she pushed the soup toward him. Eat, she said. It's getting cold. He ate. She ate. The kitchen was warm. Outside, Carver Street did what Carver Street did on Sundays. And for the first time in 3 weeks, for the first time in longer than 3 weeks, for the first time in the specific time it had taken to understand, that real was what he had been missing. He was exactly where he was supposed to be. He had been lied to 3 times. So he removed the lens. A small flat, a second-hand van, worn clothes, the particular invisibility of someone the world has decided is unremarkable. And then rain, and a bicycle, and a woman who handed him a wrench and said, everyone starts somewhere. She made soup from reduced vegetables. She fixed bicycles for 83-year-olds in the rain. She charged nothing when nothing was what people could pay. She noticed his hands. She knew something was wrong. She handed him the wrench anyway. Here is what we learned. The most important thing is not what someone has. It is what they do when they think nobody important is watching. She fixed bicycles in the rain. He was watching. And when he told her the truth, she was furious, because the truth deserved fury, and she was right to be furious, and he knew it. And then she understood, not because the money changed anything, because the man who had learned to hold things correctly was real, and real was what she had always been. Everyone starts somewhere. That is everything.